The number is 2. And I want you to hold that number for a few seconds. And I want to share a story with you. Last week, after I finished my Tuesday live Q&A, I had a parent that requested to speak with me. Now, I didn't know this parent. And typically, I wouldn't give my phone number out to someone that I didn't know, but it was immediately after my live Q&A. So I kind of figured, okay, we're going to get some recruiting questions. This father proceeded to tell me everything wrong with what I was sharing, that my bags were full of cow, dog, you fill in the blank, poop, that all the showcases were a lie, all the recruiting services were liars, college coaches really are not worth what they think they're worth. And I let him rip it at me. I mean, he came at me good. I mean, my behind was red as a red rubber ball. And then I asked him a question, and I think I caught him off guard. And I asked him, how many innings did your son pitch last year in high school? Varsity innings. How many varsity innings did your student athlete pitch last spring? And his answer was 2 varsity innings. And so that's why I thought tonight we are going to do something very different. And I thought this is something that everybody may benefit from. And so tonight we are going to discuss recruiting, exposure, and what the differences are. Now, when I start this, I always let parents understand these are my opinions. Everyone has an opinion. I don't think that anything that I do or say is any better than other people. Hopefully, it's not worse. I pride myself on trying to be informed. I try to provide educated opinions and thoughts. Basically, folks, summer is over, and with it are all the travel tournaments, all the showcases for the most part. I get it. There are a few fall events, but some families have to move on, whether it's other sports or other priorities, and maybe they don't get to play fall athletics or fall baseball. And the truth about exposure and recruiting, and I thought that that would be something that, we would benefit from discussing today. And again, if you have questions, I encourage you to put them into the live chat, because this is, after all, for you as parents and or student athletes. Now, the summer created activity. Now, I really want to get parents to really slow this train down, because for many of you, it's speeding up and you're frustrated and you're extremely angry. And I do not mind when parents vent to me, towards me, as long as we're all on the same page. We're at the end, we're trying to help. We're not trying to cast stones and bury people. Activity, travel, tournaments, hotels, long weekends away, in some cases being a week away, the food, all the expenses, everything. And with that activity comes, the showcases and the college camps and the tournaments, all of those things all kind of get lumped together. And with that is the hope or the expectation of exposure. And then from that comes social media posts. Everybody wants to put their posts up. Thank you for this camp. Thank you to that coaching staff. Thank you to that showcase. Had a great time, great event, and they put statistics or video. But motion is not the same as momentum, meaning activity. Did it lead to any progress? Did we push or move the needle forward? Is your skill set better? I mean, are you a better student athlete today than you were over the spring or the early summer? do you have a stronger fit? Is there a school that you feel is a stronger fit that is working with you? And do you have a clearer next step with regard to the road ahead of you? In other words, did you make progress with regard to selection or paring down your schools of interest? Are you having phone conversations? Is it leading to progress with regard to the ultimate goal, which is a college education or a college roster spot? Exposure can open the door, it can create an awareness. Development and skill set keeps the door open, meaning progression, development. That's what coaches want to see. That exposure opportunity was a moment in time that you were able to get in front of, whether it's decision makers, college coaches, evaluators, etc. But a coach was only able to, or an evaluator was only able to have a chance to see your student athlete in that moment. And it's temporary. What leads to a more permanent outcome is a coach that has a reason to pursue or to continue to watch and evaluate. All of this is extremely important to really begin to understand. We all think that a coach is going to jump when he sees something and say, okay, I want that guy, I want him now. But in today's world, it's simply not the way this particular recruiting process works. In days past, coaches might have attended tournaments, maybe even a showcase or a camp, and they probably would have jumped. They were trying to be proactive or get a preemptive move. In today's world of college recruiting, it's a much slower, snail like process on purpose. Nobody is trying to harm or hinder your student athlete's passion or desire to become a college student athlete. When I talk about recruiting with families that I'm working with, interest becomes more specific over time, meaning they're able to kind of see a body of work and they evaluate several athletes that may play a similar position, have an expected similar role. And now the coaching staff wants to gather and discuss. So the early signal is sometimes coaches will gather reconnaissance, and then you may not hear from them for a while. That does not necessarily mean you're out of the picture. It just means the process is slower. When you start to get direct dialogue from a college coach, a member of a staff, that's a stronger signal, meaning that's okay. There's an aggressive, active recruiting process that is taking place. They're asking more about your curriculum. They may be asking about what your fall schedule is. Maybe they're asking, with regard to what your upcoming season is going to look like. What events are you playing with, or in, or camps you might be attending, or showcases you might be attending. That's a strong signal. Now, an action signal. They are going to start to ask you to come on campus. They are going to ask you questions about getting your parents and the athlete to come on campus, maybe to meet a coaching staff member, maybe to take a tour, maybe to see a practice, maybe to watch a fall scrimmage. That is really where I want parents to understand. You have an early signal. That stronger signal is when there's kind of more consistent contact that leads to an action signal where a coach or a coaching staff member is asking you to take steps, a visit, a phone call with the head coach, maybe a connection with a coach, your high school coach, a travel coach, anything. Now we're getting into action steps, and they're being executed by the coaches, onto college coaches, as well as you as a family and as a student athlete. Generic contact, form letters, form emails during that rising junior year or the junior and senior year. You have to really begin to understand what is generic or form or not really a strong signal. It's basically uh, an introduction, and that does not mean that you're going to get an action signal coming out of a camp invite, snail mail or email, or even a follow on social media. A lot of families get upset. Well, this coach followed my student athlete, but they kind of haven't engaged. They haven't asked him any questions. Okay, well, that's generic interest, and maybe they're just monitoring. But you have to wait for the signals to really begin. And I think that's an important part of the misunderstanding and why the parent last week really got aggressive. You know, silence, and I went over this last week, and this is what triggered the mom and dad last week. You know, kids call it ghosting. Uh, I get it. Somebody doesn't return a call. Somebody said they were going to do something, they didn't follow through. Well, that's information, but it's not a final verdict, and you really have to understand sometimes coaches, particularly this time right now, as we're going through a quiet period, and a lot of parents don't understand that. And the quiet period began yesterday, and it runs through the mid of September. And I'm going to have the dates on here for parents coming up. But a quiet period means a coach can initiate a dialogue. So don't misinterpret that as no interest. You have to understand the recruiting calendars, quiet periods, dead periods, all of those. And they come out of the quiet period in September, and that's why the bigger events tend to be in October, because it's not during a quiet period, meaning the coaches can't go off campus and they're not going to initiate contact. The one thing to understand is you have to really take a deep breath and understand that this is not the time to panic. It's not the time to chase. And don't pretend that your student athlete is going to be contacted by, high level athletic Division I programs. This is where honest feedback, this is the time right now, today, through the month of, the remaining portion of August and into September. You need to get honest, direct, candid feedback, evaluation. And if need be, you have to adjust the plan. The plan is something that does not have to be rigid. You have to flow with the information and the process. If you get so hung up on a specific school or specific path for your student athlete, it's going to lead to disappointment. And the number one thing that I try to say to every single student athlete and parents, developing it, there's no day off. When I say that, is there a physical day off from lifting weights? Yes, but academic development, mental instinctual development, watch games on television, right now Major League Baseball, go and watch college practices. When college is back in session, which is we're right around the corner, find a local college within your general geographical area and go watch the practices. IQ, weight room, classroom, your study habits, your sleep habits, your nutrition habits, that's all part of your development. And when you start to chase, you start to widen the schools and the list instead of beginning to filter it out and beginning to create a plan that truly can fit your student athlete. And again, it bears repeating, and I'm definitely not trying to be repetitive. I want you to understand, just because a coach, if you're a high school junior, you're a 2028, and you are not hearing from coaches, it simply means not yet. That doesn't mean never going to be or never going to happen. I can't tell you how many coaches that I talk to that tell me that even today, as we're about to enter the start of the school year, they're still recruiting 2027s. And also, there are a lot of 2027s that still have not been recruited, that have elite metrics. And it's confusing as heck for parents and athletes. Well, my son runs a 6'4". He throws 90 plus from the outfield. And oh, by the way, he hits balls a long way. What is going on? Okay, well, there's still litigation pending. A lot of coaches are still trying to navigate through their compliance departments. Who's eligible? Am I going to get any of my guys back that graduated in 2026? Because that's a Division I and Division II topic. And oh, by the way, smaller high school recruiting classes make for more competitive recruiting classes. So it used to be 10 to 15 high school athletes would be going into college as a recruiting class. Now that number is much smaller and about to get even smaller with regard to NCAA Division I, NCAA Division II, potentially NAIA, and oh, by the way, even possibly NCAA Division III. We do not know that yet. They're all being discussed. But when the door does open officially, I cannot say this in more definitive, and I want parents to really hear what I am saying. 5 years of eligibility means 5 classes are being utilized to construct rosters. High school athletes are at the bottom of that totem pole. If you want your student athlete to be given a fair opportunity and chance, you must look the part, you must play the part, you have to blend. You can't stick out, meaning you can't be slower, you can't be less skilled, you cannot be less with regard to your foot speed or your strength metrics. You have to be on par and equal to